For this example, we're asked to solve the equation 3 times the absolute value of negative m plus 2 is equal to 15. So the first thing that we want to do when we're solving absolute value equations is we want to make sure that we're in standard form. Standard form means we have the absolute value on one side and we have everything else on the other side. So that means that we should only see one thing on this left-hand side of the equation that's just the absolute value bit. I hope you can see that there's a problem, and the problem is this 3. The question is, well, how do we get rid of this 3 in an algebraically safe manner? So as I was reading through this question, remember in the beginning, we called this 3 times the absolute value. And remember that the inverse operation of times or multiplication is division. So the first thing we're going to do is to divide both sides of this equation by 3 to get it into that standard form. And we're left with this 3 and this 3 cancels out and gives us 1, which is okay because 1 times anything is that thing itself. That's what we wanted. And on the right-hand side of the equation, we have 5. Now, once we have the absolute value by itself equal to some integer value on the right-hand side or some numerical value on the right-hand side, then we can rewrite the equation twice. Again, absolute value is a distance function. So because we're trying to figure out what are the possibilities for the distance from 0 to be 5, well, we know those two possibilities are positive 5 or negative 5, right? Whatever number we have to put in here, the distance from 0 has to be 5 units. So that means that one of the answers will be positive 5 and the other answer will be negative 5. And whatever's in the absolute value, that's just going to stay the same. So now we have two different linear equations we have to solve in order to solve this absolute value equation. The first thing we're going to do in this bit of the linear equation to get m by itself is to subtract 2 from both sides. We're left with negative m is equal to 3. Now remember, this negative is the same thing as saying negative 1. So you can write that in there if it helps you. To get rid of that negative 1, we're going to divide both sides of the equation by negative 1. And our first solution looks like it's negative 3. Now let's take a look at our second solution that we get from over here. Negative m plus 2 is equal to negative 5. Well, the first thing we're going to do is to subtract 2 from both sides of the equation. We're left with negative m is equal to negative 7, right? Negative 5 minus 2 gives us negative 7. And just as we did before, we said, okay, well, this negative in front of the m, that's the same thing as saying negative 1. And then we can divide both sides of that equation by negative 1. And we end up with m is equal to positive 7. So this equation has two solutions. The first solution is negative 3, and the second solution is positive 7.